With me today is Bill Belgard, and we're going to have the privilege to interview Ed Auslander. Ed Auslander served as Chief Executive Officer and Board Director of Lord Corporation, which is a privately held global innovation and manufacturing company with 3,000 employees in 26 countries. Ed Auslander led an enterprise-wide cultural transformation known as Lord Summits, resulting in Lord achieving a $1 billion in revenue in 2018. Lord Summits focused on developing growth levers and the transformation of the company culture. This work positioned Lord to be sold to Parker Hannifin Corporation for $3.675 billion in 2019, unlocking significant value. Auslander is active in the aerospace industry, most recently having served on the Aerospace Industries Association Executive Committee and the Board of Trustees of the Naval Aviation Museum Foundation. Ed currently serves as a senior advisor for Blackstone's private equity group. Ed, thank you for joining us.
Yep, thanks for having me. Hey, Bill and Steve, how are you guys doing?
Doing well, thanks.
Well, Ed, thank you very much.
Want to begin our conversation about global challenges and the role that the aerospace and defense industry might play in those by just kind of reflecting for a moment on what's happening today with this coronavirus outbreak. We're seeing, companies that are not traditionally building things like ventilators. We're seeing apparel companies making masks. We see distilleries making hand sanitizer.
Yep.
A lot of cooperation in industry. Do you believe that there's a way that we can kind of channel that kind of energy going forward and actually get companies aligned to address global issues that we face in other realms beyond just this current coronavirus issue?
Yes, but first of all, let me extend my thoughts and prayers to all of those impacted by coronavirus. Also, my thoughts and appreciation go out to all the frontline folks helping save lives and helping mitigate all of the threats that we face. What's really impressive to me, like you mentioned, is a lot of companies have nimbly shifted their capabilities to be able to address and help out regarding the coronavirus pandemic. The public sector asked, and many of the companies answered the call, as you mentioned. One company that I've been talking with, they're an auto parts supply company, so you can think of them, and they have an amazing channel network, channel system, where they can reach millions and millions and millions of people all around the world. And so they're actually forming another division of the company just to focus on supplying through their network PPE, disinfectant, things all businesses are going to need as they open up again and keep their workers safe. So it's a great leaders, great companies are moving quickly in that direction. I think what we've seen with this is that the public sector governments, when they ask, these private companies deliver. They're quick to shift. They're very good at nimbly adapting to the environment, to the need, and they're doing it. They're getting it done. I think this is providing somewhat of a model in a more visible way of being able to tackle problems. You think of this pandemic, you have a lot of shared threats, you have shared impacts, you have shared purpose, shared goals. In a lot of ways, the whole world is coming together to address this threat. And we've done this before, smaller scales, whether it's SARS, Ebola, AIDS, polio. The world's come together and address these threats, but at a much smaller scale. This is a much bigger scale. But you can see that the model, where you get the government's private sector or public sector identifying the problem, identifying the need in a consistent, clear way, and then the private sector driving forward with it. An example, one that I was talking a little bit with our family over the weekend about was clean water. That is a global challenge that's only going to get tougher and tougher as we go forward.
Right.
How do we articulate the problem in a very clear way and drive the appropriate, let's say, business models to where private sector can be successful, like the auto parts supply company that I mentioned. There's got to be a way to do that.
Ed, one of the things that people often say is, the aerospace and defense industry has some very unique capabilities. They have technology, in some cases developed for weapon systems that could be applied to other applications and we've seen this historically. A lot of first-time technology has been developed in the aerospace and defense sector. Do you believe there is a role for aerospace and defense companies that they could play a kind of a leading role in helping address some of these global challenges based on the technology they have, but also on the capabilities that they bring to the table with their systems of systems kind of approach to solving very big and complex problems?
Yeah, the way I like to say this with aerospace companies and many other types of companies, but focusing on aerospace companies, in a lot of ways they are uniquely positioned with capabilities that make the impossible real for their customers every day. The technology talent, the innovation talent that these companies have is truly unbelievable. And they're always making the impossible real. And so given the opportunity to focus on global challenges, I'm sure these companies, this industry would be successful. To me, the key is really in some ways at the public sector to start investing more in addressing global challenges and threats. As we've seen with the pandemic, that threat's been there for a long time. But investing in that direction, unleashing the capabilities of the A&D companies and make the impossible real. And I think that industry can tackle just about any challenge that's out there. If you can go to the moon and back multiple times, you can do this. And even some of the capabilities that people are focused on regarding tracking, regarding folks that have been infected by coronavirus, doing tracking, addressing threats. I think some of these companies could do that today. It's really about this, and you can see this theme. It's really about this public-private partnership. You could even throw in universities into this mix. Universities are investing a lot in global challenges, one to attract students and one to solve problems. And that global challenges, people want to be a part of that. People want to strive forward and putting more time and effort into developing business models that connect the dots to that pathway. I think we'll see more and more of that come.
One of the things that we looked at is the way that the aerospace companies were contracted by the federal government to design things that then are owned by the federal government. And so there would seem to me that, but you would know this better than I, but it would seem to me that we would need a private public-private sort of partnership, if not in fact, but that spirit that would allow the federal government to let go of some of these things that are in the clear, that would allow them to be used for other purposes.
Correct. Yeah, you need that partnership both ways, especially on the defense side, where part of the cost structure is this type of investment, and you need that partnership together,
right,
to make it happen. It's impressive to me when you have entities like the Gates Foundation playing that role. Where they're recognizing that it's very difficult for public companies to make the investment they need to solve some of these problems, and they're stepping in to try to provide that gap. Like, the Gates Foundation will take, 3 leading vaccine candidates and make factories for each of them.
right.
Maybe only one of them works. But they're going to make 3 factories just so that they can do it faster.
Right.
And it's hard, for a public company, it's hard to make that kind of investment, and they're stepping in. So this partnership between public, private sector coming together, and maybe this pandemic is a foundation that can be built upon, because that is happening.
Is there a way that an aerospace company can begin to, make the case for this kind of a partnership, really take a lead role? Can you see a way that can be done? Or is it going to be a situation where we wait for the government to identify the issue and come to someone in the industry?
Now, the industry has a unique arrangement where all of the leading companies are part of the Aerospace Industries Association, and all the CEOs participate. It's that kind of level, and the Aerospace Industries Association brings the industry together. Defense and aerospace companies brings the whole industry together to have a common voice, one voice. So there's a collaboration there between what's important, what's the emphasis for the whole industry, and the Aerospace Industries Association then is that advocate to the public sector to help address whatever the issue is, whether it's for the industry or whether it's for the world. One of those areas where they're focusing on is workforce. So the whole industry is focused on the workforce, and Aerospace Industries is driving that forward in a meaningful way. But connecting them with a global challenge, where the whole industry is behind a particular global challenge, Aerospace Industries Association can be that advocate or that entity that provides the collaboration between the public and private sectors to address that global challenge, whatever that may be, whatever that industry is emphasizing. And so that's a way to get the collaboration between them. But in addition, you're seeing, like I mentioned with the auto parts supply company, you're seeing private companies change their business models overnight to address this global challenge. And the aerospace industry has the capabilities to be a player in just about any global challenge.
Well, you're certainly correct about the making the impossible possible. It was 66 years from Kitty Hawk to landing on the moon.
Yep.
And that technology, everything it took to get that. But it's become July. It'll be 51 years since the landing on the moon. So you can imagine the exponential growth in technologies that have been out there in that industry that could be brought to bear to attack global challenges. So it's got to be 100 different things that could be done.
your cell phone has more computing power than the Apollo mission.
Well, and no one. I feel better now since I can operate 3 functions, maybe 3.5 of the functions.
There you go.
Yeah, given that, Ed, and thinking about that potential role, are there barriers that are keeping aerospace companies, defense companies today from being more aggressive and going after and trying to work on some of these global challenges and maybe changing their business model? Are there things, in the system itself, the way it's structured today, that make that more difficult to do than maybe other industries?
I think I'll focus that a little bit on the defense side first, and that's probably more restrictive.
Mm-hmm.
And there's you can think of a number of them, but and Bill mentioned about government owning some of the IP that's developed for defense contracts, but sometimes it's secret, top secret type of technologies. Or security sensitive technologies that can't be deployed. You also have with those companies, the cost structure of those companies is part of the contracting process. So in some ways, the government controls the R&D budget. So if you wanted to branch out into let's say a private sector or a global challenge, it's sometimes hard to do that within the cost structure frameworks of the contracting process. So that's why I say you have to engage the defense companies in this let's say in a direct way. I'll comment on an indirect way, but on a direct way, you have to have this partnership between the two. Now you could, and maybe before I get into that other well, I'll get into it now with defense companies. So one of the things you're seeing at the university level, at the workforce level, you see with what I mentioned about AIA, a lot of these universities are putting together programs for their students to focus on global challenges. They're having special programs, they're having competitions between universities, collaborating with universities. Duke University here in the Triangle is focused on this quite heavily. And they have a whole bunch of students focusing on global challenges. And then when they go off and they want to go to work somewhere, they want to go to a company that is focusing on global challenges or is part of that pathway to addressing global challenges. And so if you're a defense company, how do you connect the dots there? If you can't do it through your normal process, how do you connect the dots? Well, why not do it like Bill Gates is doing it with the Gates Foundation? A lot of these defense companies have foundations, have charities that they invest in. Why not start investing in global challenges and having their workforce be a part of that?
Right.
They would get a lot of uptake on that with their teams, where their whole company could be passionate about a particular global challenge, and their foundation invests in that. That would be a great pathway. You could do that too with aerospace companies. Now, aerospace companies, being that they're private sector, they have a lot more flexibility. They have a flexibility of how they invest, what they invest in. That industry can decide upon particular global challenges and meet those threats. I know some of the challenges with emissions, the aerospace industries are very much focused on that and improving that, helping make the planet more green, address climate change. There's a lot of passion in that direction, and they're doing things to improve it. And there's investment going in. European, the EU has a called Clean Sky to address that, to address emissions, to address climate change related to emissions, and improve that. And so there's investment going in. There's a lot of aerospace companies that are already attached to that. Lord Corporation was working on Clean Sky when I was there. So it's these things are happening. Hopefully, with what's happening with the pandemic and the cooperation that we're seeing, that's a spark to do even more of it.
Ed, one of the things you described was a way to get people, the younger generation who are looking at some of these global challenges already, more engaged and excited about the companies they work for. Having been at the executive committee of the Aerospace Industries Association, is attracting and retaining people an issue? Is that something that companies are dealing with today?
It's an absolute top issue. So in 2018 and then launching into 2019, Aerospace Industries Association updated their strategy, updated their priorities, and all of the aerospace and defense company CEOs put workforce as one of the top 5 issues, all of them. It was consistent across every single CEO. So AIA is picking up the ball on that. The whole industry is picking up the ball on that. And they're all focusing on ways to attract more students to the industry. Well, and even going back further, just developing a passion for STEAM in students at an early age, have them carry that forward, then choose towards a STEAM pathway at university level, and then be attracted in the industry when they graduate. And that's on one side of it, very much emphasis there, and a lot of the university students, their first exposure to these global challenges happens at the university level, and the universities are sponsoring this, and they want to carry that forward when they go full-time into a role. So I know the aerospace industry is moving in this direction, which is absolutely fantastic. Another direction they're going into regarding workforce is not everybody has a passion to go to a university and get like an engineering degree or computer science degree. A lot of them want to be technicians, vocational, and the industry setting up a lot of apprenticeship programs to help attract the entire workforce into the aerospace and defense industry.
Great.
Well, with recruiting, I know that one of the emphasis that we would work with the aerospace companies would be recruiting women into these sciences starting early. In terms of doing that. And one of the ways that I've seen that happen was the company with a relatively minor investment, really, but investing in projects done at the university where the students could work on them and could then come and intern at the company working on that project. And it seems like the Global Challenge initiatives that a company could sponsor could start with that kind of, I'm just thinking what you think about this idea, starting with an investment with the university and the students, and then bringing them into the university in their internships, even when they can't bring them into high security programs. This is something they could bring them to work and actually put them to work on this thing that the company is sponsoring that will really help some one of these global challenges around the world.
Yeah, I think that's a great pathway. Just about every air company has interns, has summer students, co-op program, and all of these, and sponsoring those programs at the university level. I know a lot of companies sponsor design projects, senior design projects at the universities. And I know a lot of them sponsor global challenge type initiatives. And these are great ways to fund some effort towards solving global challenges, but also attract students at the same time. And the passion that this generation has to go after global challenges and provide solutions is inspiring. It's amazing how much passion they have in this direction, and aerospace and defense companies would be very well served to connect the dots earlier.
Very good.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ed.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Thanks, Bill. Really
Is there
enjoyed it.
anything else you'd like to add? Thought that you would not want to miss?
No, I think A&D companies are uniquely positioned to address global challenges. They have the technology, the spirit to make the impossible real. And over time, we're going to see many more opportunities for them to do it once again.
Great. Thank you, Ed.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.